So, with our agenda today, our focus is Tailwind arrangement, okay? So you'll be able to configure a div with Flexbox, and then you'll also be able to adjust the positioning of the children within that container, and you'll be able to combine previous Tailwind experience to further customize these HTML elements that you're working on here. I'm going to show you how to make a Flexbox and what it's used for. I'm going to show you some item alignment shortcuts, as well as combining them with the previous Tailwind that we went over. And the screen is frozen. There we go. Sorry. You're going to create a div with children and give it the class name of Flex to further customize your positioning. Your live share link is right here if you're wanting to join in on the VS Code sesh at the moment. And let's get into this. So, here's what we did the other day. I can't remember if your guys' class was the pink and purple class, but that's the Tailwind left over from Thursday's video. We're going to create a lot of divs today because a majority of web design is creating divs within divs and then styling those divs around each other. Okay? So you want to remember parents and children in the web design sense, and you also want to think back to the C in CSS, stands for cascading, and those are the things that are kind of like your parents' genes, right? Their genetics gets passed down by parent to child, and then child has the opportunity to take those genes and put their own spin on them, right? With their own children further on. What does that all mean? How does that even relate to web design? You might be asking. It's because we need to start with a div, div, enter, enter. This is going to serve as our parent container, okay? This is going to hold all of our children, give them specific genetic rules that they can later change as they see fit, okay? So, divs by default can display text, okay? You're going to see on the output over here, once I Control S to save, not that one, whoopsie. Once I Control S to save, that a div can display text, right? Like you can see on lines 23 through 25 here. However, because divs are mainly used as containers, they're mainly used to hold other aspects, hold other elements within your web design project. We usually want to use separate text-based elements in order for that to appear, like paragraphs, okay? And this paragraph specifically is child number 1 of this parent div. Oops, I accidentally hit backspace. This one is child number 2 of this parent div. And this one is child number 3 of the same parent div. So what's going to be useful is getting back into the habit of commenting, right? Leaving yourself little notes throughout your code so that you know which is which. I'm going to start by going to line 23, hitting enter, and writing just the words parent container, okay? Now, parent container is going to appear on my output right underneath the black border line and above the child number 1. But because I want this to be a comment, a little hint for myself later or my other developers, I'm going to hit Control/ and turn that word parent container into a comment, okay? That way it doesn't get read by the computer following the instructions. It just is for me, the user, so that when I go back and look, I can tell what it is, okay? So, instead of using paragraphs as the children of this parent container, we're actually going to use more divs as the children inside of this parent, okay? So we're going to go div, enter, enter, call this child number 1, then Control/ to comment it out, and we're going to repeat that process 2 more times so that we know which div child relates to the div parent, okay? So div, enter, enter, call this one child number 2, Control/ to comment that out, down arrow key, enter key, div, enter, enter, and then this will be child number 3, Control/ to comment that out, okay? What we have put together here is a parent container that has 3 identical children, right? Triplets. All 3 of these children have the same genetic rule. All 3 of these children have the same default settings until we start configuring them with a little bit of Tailwind, okay? So, we're going to go to the parent container div. See, I went to the wrong one because I wasn't reading my comments. My parent container starts on line 23. We're going to add a class name of Flex to that parent container. Now, nothing's going to appear on our output because we haven't given the children anything to display yet, okay? So I'm going to go to my first child, hit P, enter, to create this little paragraph element. we're going to call this child number 1. But actually, this isn't child number 1. This is grandchild number 1. Okay? So you can see, when you're looking at like a family tree, or when you're looking at a set of web design parent and children relationships, the top is always the parent, followed by the grandchild, or followed by the child, and then however many layers deep you go after that is going to be more and more grandchildren. Okay? So if I do all of these divs, just hitting enter each time so that it automatically nests them nicely, right? This is a pretty extensive amount of grandchildren that isn't doing anything for me. And the reason typically web designers don't call them parents and children as much anymore and prefer ancestors and descendants is because it's easier to call this a descendant and go all the way back up to the ancestor. Anyway, that doesn't super matter, but I wanted you to see the difference between those two things. Anyways, we're going to repeat what we did on line 27 with grandchild number 1, and we're going to add paragraph element for grandchild number 2, and then we're going to go down to child number 3, give them a kid, and call them grandchild number 3. Okay? Now you're going to see on your output what's going on here. Anybody observe anything about our grandchildren? What is happening to them in the output? Anybody got anything? What are you seeing? Maybe look at how they're spaced out. Is there any spacing at all? No. Okay. As a class, is there any spacing at all? No. No. So true. Because when you set a container to flex, it's going to only have each child or grandchild or great-grandchild, however far down you go in the descendant chain, is only going to take up the amount of space that it requires. And the reason that I compare the class names of the parents to genes or to genetics is because if you set a rule for the parent, most of the time the child receives it. Okay? We'll just leave it at that from a biological standpoint. Okay? So if I were to add some more detail on my div class name right here, maybe we add a little bit of margin. Let's go margin. Let's do 10. Give it a little bit of breathing room. Okay. You can see that moved my grandchildren as a whole, right? The same gene affected all 3 grandchildren, but it didn't do anything to address the separation between these elements, right? This is where the idea of the genetics comes into play for changing the rules on the parents, or on the children and the grandchildren, because we want to affect how they relate to one another. Okay? So I'm going to make this easier to see, add a border -1 and then a border -black to my parent container so that you can see how much space the parent container is taking up. Okay? Since we set margin on the parent container, it's going to keep everything inside of this fence line, but it's going to add margin on all the sides around it, right? If I add margin to each of the children by going into the child div start tag, giving it a class name of its own, and then we'll set this to maybe margin 2, that's going to separate grandchild number 1 from grandchild 2 and 3, because child number 1 has a different set of genes and a different set of display rules than its other siblings. Okay? So we're going to go into here, going to do the same thing, class name of margin 2, m-2, and then we're going to go into child number 3, class name of m-2. Okay? Now that's going to give my 3 grandchildren, my 3 precious grandchildren, a little bit more breathing room. Now they are not directly connected to one another, but I still want a little bit more visual help while I'm laying out my site of how much space these grandchildren are taking up. So I'm going to give each of these children, the main divs, not the grandchildren, because those are paragraphs. The child divs, I'm going to give them their own borders in red, green, and blue. So we're going to set each of one to border 1 and then border -color. I'm going to set this first one to red 500. Okay, and that's going to make a faint red border around grandchild number 1. I'm going to copy that for efficiency. Go to child number 2, space control, not B, control V. Let's bring this back up. And we're going to set this to green 500. And then we're going to repeat one more time on line 33 for child number 3. We're going to set it to border blue 500. Okay, the cool part about the flex container setting is that no matter the size of my window, the flex container is going to grow or shrink depending on how much space we have. So if we've got a more tablet-sized browser, you can see that the parent container takes up as much space as it has available. Okay? The grandchildren are still only taking up what's required, but inside of their whole parent space, it's going to flex or shrink depending on the size of my viewport. Okay? Viewport's another name for browser because it's like a window into your code, right, that your user can actually access. Now the other cool part about setting a div parent to a class name of flex is we get to change how the grandchildren get displayed inside of that container. Okay? Right now, they're referencing something called the origin. Have you heard me say origin in this class before? Yes or no? The answer is yes on that one. Let me ask this. Have you heard the word origin in your math classes? Yeah. Specifically geometry. I think it's geometry. I don't know. Okay. Can anybody give me, if I draw out a graph here with x and y, where-ish is the origin? Any guesses? Yeah, Saisha. Right here? Yeah. Interesting. Might that also be the origin of the parent container right here? Something to think about. Okay. So, web elements by default are always going to reference some type of origin, and it's usually going to be in the top left, either of the container that they live within, or the entirety of the web page browser up here, right? If we want to change how these grandchildren are displayed, we need to change the rule, or the genes, of our parent container here. And we do so by going like this. We go into our parent container's class name, into our Tailwind, and we're going to change the justification, okay? Justify. Now when you type justify, you're going to get a bunch of options here, like normal, which is what it's currently set to. You get start, end, center, between, around, evenly, blah, 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 blah. A whole bunch of these, right? I personally like center or between because the majority of the modern web that we're using is going to use, one of these two justification methods. So if I click on justify center here, it's going to set this parent container to have the rule of flex, then the rule of justify center. When I look at my output, nothing changes until I full screen. Now that places my three precious grandchildren right in the middle of the page where they belong, right? So that my user can quickly tell, because you got about half of a second to 1 second to grab your user's attention on their home page. They know, oh, cuss, something cool's going on with these grandchildren right here. So, what we can also do, if we want to separate the importance of each of the grandchildren, is change something like, instead of justify center, justify between. Now what that's going to do is also nothing on the mobile version. They're going to maintain their grandchildren 1, 2, and 3. But when I go full screen, it's going to take the available space and add justification between how much space it has available, which allows me to put less important things in the grandchild number 1 container, less important things in the grandchild number 3 container, and keep my audience stuck on grandchild 2 right in the middle of their screen. So, let's add a little bit more content to grandchild number 2, so this looks a little bit more like the sites that you are probably used to seeing, actually. So if we go into child number 2, and we add some more content here. Oops, I just broke it. Let me go justify between again. Okay. We're going to add some more stuff to grandchild number 2. Maybe we're going to have some content, right? I can just click on line 32, Control-C, Control-V, Control-V, Control-V. Okay, let's just get a couple. It accidentally took the extra line there. Okay, now grandchild number 2 is growing in content. Maybe we have some images. Who knows? Let's highlight this whole thing here. Nope, that works actually. Oh, dang it, I copied and pasted nothing. Okay, paragraph, images, highlight, Control-C, Control-V, Control-V. And then let's say we got 2 links or something in here. We'll call it link. And maybe a little bit of p-enter, Control-V, link. Oops, I got double paragraph elements. I just need to delete. I just need to delete the extras. There we go. Now we're good. So if I full screen, grandchild 2 is taller, and the content is taking up space in here, but it's still really narrow. Got a lot of additional white space on my output here. My user is going to be like, what the heck? What is in this all this empty space here? I'm getting nervous. There's too much extra room. We can affect the width of grandchild number 2 to take up some more of this available space. Okay? Now in doing so, it's going to make it look a little funky on your mobile version, but it'll make it nice and visible and obvious on the more web page version. So what we're going to do is go within child number 2's container, and we're going to add a W value. W is width. And you can see, just like when you type M or P for margin or padding, you're going to get a ton of options here. We want a lot. Let's go with width 96. And then when I save, not much is going to happen on the mobile version. You saw it grew just a teensy bit. But when we full screen, now grandchild number 2, in all of their importance, is bigger. And it's easier for my user to tell, oh, this is where the important stuff lives. Because this is the larger section for me to put content or images or links or whatever. Okay? They're right here. Does that make sense? This is a super useful habit to get into, the same way that you're doing Tailwind classes, almost the same way every time, like I showed you yesterday, formulaically. You're going to be laying out flex boxes formulaically like you see right here, right? And that's part of your exit task, is to create your own set of children and parents, or parents and children, parents usually come first, okay, to post on your exit task. So let's see what the exit task says. If we go here, discussions, I guess I could have gone from the weekly agenda. Just real quick, while this is loading, I always put this week's exit tasks in the pin section, and then I just leave the other ones open anytime you need to access them. But let's look at this week's exit task. I want you to copy and paste your Flexbox practice. It should have a parent container set to Flex. Okay, swag. I've got that. A parent container set to a class name of Flex. It should have at least 2 children with Tailwind. Okay, I got that. I have child number 1 with a border. And then I have child number 2 with margin, a width, and some borders. Okay, and it should all be easy to read. It's nicely nested. I can tell which is the grandchildren, bless you, and which are the children, and which are the parents. Okay, cool. I have successfully completed my exit task for today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and post that on P5. For some reason, mine comes in like coded like this, and others it's just text. But this is what you need to post for your exit task today. Okay? Does all this make sense? It'll happen the same way every time. So I want you guys to practice with it now, see how it works before I check it. All right? And we have how much time left in class? Can somebody give me
45 minutes.
40? That can't be right. It's 20. Oh my God, wow. 25 minutes. I was going to say, the classes are only 50 minutes. Okay, you got 25 minutes. Reference my post on the exit task. It needs to look different from mine, though. You can't just copy me, because I know how to do it. I want to see if you know how to do it. And that's what I need you to post for points today. Okay? Question?
Yeah.
Specific? Okay. All right. Any questions in general before I turn you guys to complete this? Okay? Let me count how many people are here today real quick. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus 6 is 12. Plus 4 is 16. Plus 2 is 18. Plus how many? 5? 18 plus 5? What's 18 plus 5? 23? If everybody posts to the exit task, then I will unblock Minecraft. But you got to get everybody to post first. Okay. So, I'm going to let you guys try this for about 5 minutes. See if you can troubleshoot it. Okay? And then I'll start checking at 12:45. Okay? Sound good? Okay. Good luck.